What if the map of the modern world wasn't discovered but designed? What if it was drawn not by explorers out in the wild, but by quiet men in candlelit rooms, deciding with a stroke of ink where nations would live or die? In the age when Britain ruled the seas, it also ruled the lines that defined the earth itself. From the jungles of India to the deserts of Arabia, the empire's greatest weapon wasn't the musket or the ship-it. Was the map. Every border you see today carries the ghost of a decision made in London, a pen stroke that redrew destinies. In the 19th century, as the world's unexplored spaces shrank, Britain's surveyors and diplomats set out not just to chart the planet, but to own it. They called it civilization, but it was control in disguise. At the Royal Geographical Society, cartographers traced the outlines of continents they'd never even seen, guided by explorers' journals, trade routes, and pure military ambition. Maps became mirrors of power, red stain of empires spreading across parchment like a living organism. Each line meant something. A trade corridor secured, a people divided, a resource claimed. To rule the world, Britain learned it had to first draw it. The story began with the Great Trigonometrical Survey of India, a project so vast it spanned generations. British engineers climbed mountains and crossed jungles to measure every inch of a land they never truly owned. Under the blazing sun, local laborers hauled instruments heavier than rifles, recording the very curvature of the earth. It was science and it was surveillance. Every measurement strengthened the empire's grasp. When the surveys ended, India was no longer a mystery. It was a diagram, divided into provinces that served imperial need. Railways followed those lines, then telegraph poles, then armies. A civilization once organic was now geometric, ruled by angles and coordinates. The map was destiny. But the art of division reached its peak in the age of diplomacy. As the 19th century bled into the 20th, Britain turned cartography into state. Behind the closed doors of embassies, diplomats sketched the world's future over brandy and cigar smoke. In 1916, as Europe tore itself apart, two men, Sir Mark Sykes of Britain and Francois Georges Picot of France, met to decide who would control the Middle East after the war. On a single map, they drew a pencil line across deserts they had never seen, slicing through ancient lands as if they were paper. That single stroke created borders that still burn with conflict today. Syria, Palestine, born from an agreement signed in silence. The people who lived there were never asked. They simply woke up one day inside new countries with new rulers. The Sykes-Picot Agreement was the empire's most elegant deception, a promise of freedom, written in invisible ink. While Britain publicly vowed independence to its Arab allies, its private maps told another story. Empires, after all, weren't built by promises kept, but by boundaries drawn. In Africa, the carving was even more brutal. At the Berlin Conference of 1884, Britain joined Europe's other powers in what historians now call the scramble for Africa. There were no Africans. At the table, only rulers, investors, and explorers, drawing straight lines through forests, rivers, and tribes they did not know. Some borders cut villages in half, others trapped enemies inside the same walls. On paper, it looked orderly. On the ground, it was chaos. The empire called it progress. The world called it partition. When the ink dried, whole civilizations had been rearranged to fit British trade routes and resource maps. Gold, ivory, oil, every commodity had its coordinate. From Cairo to Cape Town, the dream of a red line across Africa became a symbol of domination disguised as geography. Yet maps were not merely tools of expansion, they were instruments of secrecy. During both world wars, Britain used maps as weapons of illusion. At Bletchley Park, where codebreakers intercepted enemy signals, cartographers plotted phantom divisions and imaginary bases, creating false atlases to mislead German reconnaissance. Operation Bodyguard, the deception plan before D-Day, depended as much on maps as on men, entire armies drawn where none existed. In Churchill's command bunker beneath Whitehall, rooms were lined with glowing maps that shifted daily, each pin marking life or death. The Prime Minister once said, "I must have my maps. They are the key to everything." And indeed they were. For every ship that sailed, every bomb that fell, there was a map that foretold it. But the empire's cartography had another purpose, shaping the story of history itself. In classrooms across Britain, school children opened atlases flooded with red, taught to believe that this coloring meant greatness. Maps became propaganda. Clean lines hiding violent conquests, straight borders concealing centuries of rebellion. The map wasn't just a record of empire, it was its myth. Even long after independence swept through Asia and Africa, Britain's maps lingered in the global consciousness. English became the language of navigation, Greenwich the measure of time, and London the reference point for the world's coordinates. The empire may have ended, but the geometry of its influence remained. Behind the scenes, a new generation of British strategists inherited the old tools of division. In the Cold War, maps again became invisible battlefields. Intelligence agencies drew their lines in ideology rather than geography, creating spheres of influence instead of colonies. Old trade routes became data routes. Cartography turned digital. Satellites replaced surveyors, but the mission stayed the same: to see, to measure, to control. The empire had learned to live without borders by mastering information. Today, if you trace the borders of the modern world, you can still see the empire's fingerprints. Straight lines in deserts, jagged cuts through mountains. Islands divided by invisible walls, each tells a story of negotiation, secrecy, or greed. The conflicts in the Middle East, the rivalries in Africa, the disputes across Asia all stem from maps drawn not by those who live there, but by those who wish to rule from afar. In museums, the original atlases sit under glass, their colors fading but their consequences unending. Visitors marvel at the artistry, forgetting the lives folded within those pages. And somewhere in London's archives, in folders stamped classified, there are still maps too sensitive to release, documents of territories promised, deals concealed, and borders quietly altered for reasons long forgotten. The empire may have vanished from the seas, but it endures on the surfaces of our screens, our classrooms, and our minds. Every time we open a map app or read a headline about disputed borders, we are walking through the echoes of that hidden cartographic conquest. For Britain, the world became not a place to explore, but a puzzle to arrange, and once arranged, it could be ruled forever. So perhaps the greatest secret of all is not the maps Britain drew, but how the world still lives within them. So tell me, if every border was once a line of power, can any nation today truly claim to be free from the maps that made them? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the hidden side of history, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories like this one.